We're going to start with the Eagle Mountain Community Facilities District. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Dickey.
Here.
Board Member Charnow.
Here.
Board Member Tolis.
Here.
Board Member Brown. Board Member Magazine.
Here.
Board Member LaCrone. Board Member Spellich.
Present.
Thank you. Grady? Or,
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the item before you is the Eagle Mountain Community Facilities District, and that is a facilities district that was formed several years ago for the purpose of providing infrastructure for the Eagle Mountain community. It has one more year left in its debt service, and this will be the last year that we will have this debt, and the residents in that area will be paying on. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Staff highly recommends approval of this budget.
Thank you. So I have to call a hearing, right? Do I have to call a special hearing, it says? Public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe there's also minutes on there.
Consideration approving the minutes. Yeah, oh, okay, yes. So that's not part of the hearing, right?
No.
Okay,
Move to approve the minutes.
thank you. Second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, now the hearing is open. Do we have any speaker cards on this? Probably not.
No.
Thank you. Is there anything else that we need to hear?
Be happy to answer any questions Mayor and Council may have about this budget.
Thank you. So we need a motion, right?
Move to approve as written. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye? So I guess I'll just adjourn the meeting. Thank you. These things are always so awkward. Next, we have the Cottonwoods Maintenance District. Call that to order. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Dickey.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Charnow.
Present.
Board Member Tolis.
Here.
Board Member Brown. Board Member Magazine.
Here.
Board Member LaCrone. Board Member Spellich.
Present.
Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll start the public hearing. Grady?
Yes, Mayor and Council, the item before you, unlike the Eagle Mountain Community Facilities District, this is a maintenance improvement district. So this is a budget that you are reviewing and approving tonight. It's the ongoing operating budget that is used to maintain the landscaping in the Cottonwoods area of town. This has been in place for a number of years. The residents were actually the ones that approached the town to form this maintenance improvement district, as they did not want to form a homeowners association for the same purpose. So each of the homeowners within this small neighborhood area is assessed the annual costs on a pro rata per lot basis. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions or speaker cards? No? Close the hearing. Could I have a motion, please?
Move approval as written. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. I'll adjourn that one, and we'll get to our regular meeting. And could we please do a roll call, call to order, roll call?
Do you want to do the pledge?
Oh, where am I here? Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the wrong thing. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a invocation by Pastor Keith Pavia from Christ Church. Hi, welcome.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here. Thank you so much. I'd like to bow our heads. Dear God, we come here today, and I just ask you to be with all of us that are going through this town council. Just watch over what is said, what is talked about, and give us wisdom and integrity as we approach everything we need to make this town grow and be great and make decisions that are needed to be holy and godly. We thank you again for their work. We ask you to be with us and help us continue to always grow, seeking wisdom in this town, in this state, and just let us remind us always that you are why we do this. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, roll call, please.
Mayor Dickey,
Here.
Vice Mayor Charno,
Here.
Councilmember Toles,
Here.
Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Magazine,
Here.
Councilmember LaCrone, Councilmember Spellich.
Present.
Thank you. We will start with our reports by mayor, council members, and the town manager. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We had a bit of good news recently. You recall the CARES Act was passed by Congress previously for the purpose of trying to help various different businesses and states and cities to try to shoulder the financial issues that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused. Our state was the recipient of about $1.9 billion to the state to hold on to safekeeping for cities and towns that were not large enough, that were not 500,000 people or more. And as a result, the state made an announcement, the governor did, that he was going to be releasing approximately $441 million of that $1.9 billion. And our share, based on our per capita, is about 2.9 million. Yeah, almost had a heart attack there.
Roads are getting fixed.
Yes. So the bottom line is that this is great. It's going to really help stabilize our budget for next year. At this point, it's not going to be. We're not earmarking it per the agreement for us. We've already gotten in the queue to be able to receive this, and we should probably be receiving it, I would say, within the next 2 to 4 weeks. But it's supposed to go towards our public safety costs, and then the money that the town would have spent on public safety costs will go towards basically stabilizing our budget. And if we find at the end of the fiscal year we have any savings at the end of the fiscal year, then it will likely go into the capital fund or some other types of one-time uses, maybe the streets fund. The other thing that we're going to try to do, because we know a number of community businesses here have been hurt, we're going to create a business assistance program. So at the next council meeting on June 16th, we're going to roll out a variety of different measures. And we're going to use a portion of this money to help some of the small businesses here with a business assistance program, which will consist of grants. And on the 16th, we'll generally outline what the grant program will look like and seek your approval. And then we will then formalize that grant process and start trying to help some of the small businesses. We also have a number of other things we're trying to do with trying to do away with late charges and fees, late charges and late fees for fees that we charge businesses as well. And we're also looking at doing an extension of our business licenses, giving an automatic 6 to 9 months of time on top of the business licenses already. So we're going to come back on the 16th with more details, but I just want to let you know that that the good news is that we're getting a portion of money, 2.9 million, within the next 2 to 4 weeks, and then we'll also use that to try to stabilize our budget for next year. And there's another item, Jenny, you want to remind me what?
The league where Aaron was.
Oh, yes. Yes, thank you, Mayor. So there was a great workshop last week that the League of Arizona Cities and Towns put on. It was called Reopening Town Government, City Government. And we were very pleased to have our own town attorney and his firm there. They did an awesome job. They were actually showing and demonstrating that they were kind of the leaders in a lot of what's been going on with the COVID-19 and advising their clients. And one of the things that we have recently done, starting with Memorial Day weekend, we opened up our ball fields for tournament play. And we couldn't have done it without Aaron because he and his firm were able to come up with waiver forms. In fact, soon as he was done speaking, all the folks were trying to contact both his firm and our staff because really they're on the cutting edge, and we were being contacted out of state on how we were doing our tournament play when some of the other states aren't even as far along as we are. So, anyways, Aaron did an awesome job, and so did his boss during that session. So, thank you.
Thank you, Grady. And I sent the link because we just got that today, so if you didn't watch it. Just real quick before I ask what you guys want to do, I just wanted to thank Councilman Tullis because a lot of the stuff that we're going to come up with, we'd had that meeting and some of those ideas to help the businesses, and that was kind of the jump start on that, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilman Magazine?
Yeah, first of all, it's phenomenal. We're getting $2.9 million. So theoretically, and I underscore theoretically, at the end of the year, we'll have $2.9 million. Do you have any thoughts as to, well, we have some infrastructure issues that we delayed, and we're going to talk about those at the end of the first quarter. Any thoughts about what else you might want to use any of the funds for, or is that something you want to take a look at?
At this point, what I would like to recommend is that that we proceed cautiously as the council's directed the staff to do, and we're going to be trying to monitor our revenue and see how the revenues are coming in. We have just recently received the April numbers, and the April numbers were off by about, I believe, 12 to 13% from where they were a year ago. So we're going to just continue to monitor, and it may have to be used, a big chunk of that may be used to help stabilize the general fund. And then anything left over, we would definitely want to come back to the council, but we believe we'd want to have it go towards one-time uses. So it might be like streets, or it might be the capital fund for some capital. So we'll definitely have a discussion with the council, but as you know, we're going to be coming to council on a quarterly basis and reporting back on our finances, and council will have a better idea how we're tracking throughout the year. And if it turns out that we don't have to tap that much of that money, that's great. Then that could go towards those one-time uses that you're suggesting.
We probably don't want to have too much of a back and forth here because this is just the report section. We're not allowed to talk about it. We just report. Yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk about this. Plus, we have to get out of here by 7:30 tonight, so we're going to try to honor that as much as we can. Any other activities that you want to talk about, Mike?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Real quick, had a Valley Metro meeting 2 weeks ago, board meeting, and ridership continues to be down, of course, when compared to last year. That's no surprise. It's about a 57% drop overall, comparing the 2 Aprils. And we had a nice and fun budget review, of course, and you know, our budget's like 30-some million. Well, this one's 334 million, so it's quite a bit bigger. But they received CARES money as well from the federal government, and that'll be used primarily this coming budget year. And then lastly, some good news too. They did receive word that they're getting another 100 million for the light rail extension down central towards South Phoenix. So that was kind of a surprise coming out of nowhere. So that'll help a lot with that construction project. That's it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Have anything, Art?
Well, we had a Chamber of Commerce Town Hall online Zoom meeting that I participated in with Betsy Lavoie, the CEO of the Chamber, and we had about 30 different members of the Chamber on that call. And I appreciate you bringing up the discussion and some of the ideas that had come from that call. And I appreciate our town manager that he's going to work on presentation for June 16th. I know a lot of the businesses are looking forward to hearing that, and it just shows how much this council cares about the businesses in this community and want them all to be successful. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A big shout out to the park staff, Rachel, Kevin, one of our residents, Mike Reavers, organized the softball tournament over Memorial Day, in which I went to. I didn't play in it, I just went to it. 27 teams participated, 4 teams were from California, 1 was from Nevada. The rest were all from Arizona. Over 50% of the teams booked hotel rooms here in Fountain Hills. Rachel did a survey of them. 67% said that they ate at Fountain Hills restaurants, naming All-American, Phil's, Saddle Bronc, Wendy's, McDonald's, Country Club Bar, Rosati's, and Euro Pizza. They were asked to rate the field conditions, 1 being significantly worse, 10 being significantly better. The average field score was 8.9, which is awesome. So when asked if they would return here for another Memorial Day tournament, 85% of the participants said that they would attend. And the tournament brought in a little over $4,000 in revenue for the town. So we were the first ones to have a senior softball tournament. Time Magazine, I was told, did an article. I haven't read it, but they did an article. They interviewed Mike Reavers, the organizer, as well as park staff and everything. So the owner of Comfort Inn reached out to Rachel and said that the tournament was responsible for 70% of the bookings in his hotel that weekend. And he said, kudos to you guys for bringing events here. It helped small businesses here in Fountain Hills. He had mentioned that many guys there visited the car wash and ordered from local restaurants. So a big thank you to the park staff. Thank you for Grady for discussing this with me and finally being on board with having it. I know there was some worries, but there was no complaints, and it was really well done. So I just want to thank staff.
Thank you, Councilman. We had MAG Regional Council, of course, online. The National League of Cities and Towns did a webinar, and it was a lot about taking care of yourselves and your families and your community during all of this time. It's time that is very needed, especially when there's so much going on. It's a mournful time and a little uncertain time, so it was a really good webinar, and that will be available for others. You all know there's been more executive orders and obviously the emergency declaration, which includes the curfew. If you want any information, please go to our website. We have statements on there, fh.az.gov. The Times of Fountain Hills has really been on top of everything, every single day, sometimes every hour. And then azgovernor.gov and Arizona DHS, AZDHS, for information about the pandemic. Moving on, we are going to be continuing item 8B, so if you're here for that, we're not going to be hearing that tonight. And now we'll get to the proclamation, which is June 14th, 2020, as United States Army 245th birthday. I was contacted by Mario Diaz, who's the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army. He asked that we would do this proclamation, and we are very happy to have Captain William Handy here and his daughter. I'm going to read it from up here because of all the situation, and then I'll bring down and present it, and the captain will say a few words. So, whereas on June 14th, 1775, the Second Continental Congress, representing the citizens of 13 American colonies, authorized the establishment of the Continental Army, and whereas the collective expression of the pursuit of personal freedom that caused the authorization and organization of the United States Army led to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence and the codification of the new nation's basic principles and values in the Constitution, whereas for the past 245 years, the U.S. Army's central mission has been to fight and win the nation's wars, and the motto of duty, honor, country is the creed by which the American soldier lives and serves. And whereas no matter what the cause, location, or magnitude of future conflicts, the nation can rely on the U.S. Army to produce well-trained, well-led, and highly motivated soldiers to carry out the missions entrusted to them. Whereas the components of the U.S. Army, to include the Arizona Army National Guard, the U.S. Army Reserves, and the regular Army have contributed immensely to COVID-19 response. And whereas residents of the town of Fountain Hills have proudly served and made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation's freedom, while in the United States Army and other branches of our nation's military, now therefore I, Jenny Dickey, Mayor of the town of Fountain Hills, do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2020 to be the United States Army's 245th birthday, and express appreciation on behalf of the people of Fountain Hills to the United States Army and to the dedicated soldiers who have served in it for the over 245 years it's been in existence. So, Captain, if you want to come over, I'll bring this down to you, and then we can take a picture with your little darling girl there.
I want to, but unfortunately, thank you.
I have mine up there too.
Yeah, don't want to cover her up. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mayor Dickey, members of City Council, and citizens of the town of Fountain Hills. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have a few moments to speak with our amazing community. Today, we are here to recognize the 245th birthday of the United States Army. Birthdays tend to make us reflect on our past, on the state of the world around us, and where we are headed. Birthdays are a time to reassess whether we are achieving our goals and whether we are adhering to the values we have established. On this birthday, it is clear where we are as an Army. It is clear that we have what we have accomplished, and it's also clear that our Army continues to act in tandem with our values and traditions. When we reflect on our history, as well on the world around us, it is clear that for 245 years, our Army has been and continues to be an institution that is representative of everything great about American people. On this year, 3 things are clear. First, our Army reflects the will and determination of the American people. Second, our Army mirrors the compassion of our communities. Third, America's Army represents America's values. The Army continues to defend the nation. 245 years since a band of patriots stood up to fight for the ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those ideals were nothing less than revolutionary. We continue to defend those ideals with an all-volunteer Army. Soldiers now, just as they did before, responded to something that we refer to as the call of duty. Serving one's country is a noble cause, and nothing represents our community, our commitment greater than putting our sons and daughters on the ground where they are needed. We continue to take on the many challenges which we face with extraordinary skill and devotion. You can be proud of the fact that our soldiers today are present in over 120 countries, and we continue to play a vital role in securing the safety and freedom around the world. As leaders and as soldiers, readiness is our primary responsibility. We have all committed to the soldier's creed, being disciplined, physically and mentally tough, professional, and most importantly, maintaining our arms, our equipment, and ourselves. The Army continues to make a huge investment in our soldiers' health and welfare, and is focused on programs that protect our soldiers and help them face challenges. To help our teams become even stronger in the future, the Army is committed to the physical, behavioral, and spiritual and social makeup of each soldier. Soldiers take care of soldiers. We leave no one behind. Through our combined efforts together, we remain Army strong. Over the last 245 years, that strength has enabled the Army to become the most preeminent land power in the world, which it will continue to be. A critical conduit of the strength of the Army is our families, all of whom serve side by side with our soldiers. Our families encountering tremendous opportunities with their soldier, where they continue to provide their unconditional love and support, which ultimately strengthens the spirit of our Army. Our families are a vital piece of the Army. In closing, this is a time for us to reflect. There are thousands of Arizonians that serve, and I appreciate not only their sacrifice, but those of the families that stand with them. On the Army's birthday, I'd like to say thank you to every soldier, civilian, and family member who have ever served in our ranks for their dedication to duty and selfless service that has made us Army strong. The strength of our nation is our Army. The strength of our Army is our soldiers. The strength of our soldiers is our families. This is what makes us Army strong. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for making the trip. Appreciate it. Next, we have a special report by Peter Volney talking about our concourse in the hills and the positive impact that it's had on the town of Fountain Hills. Welcome to Peter. Where's he at? There he is. Come on up, and happy to have you, and I'm glad we were able to have a public meeting before you had to take off. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mayor Dickey, and all the council members. Thanks for inviting me here. I should tell you, first of all, why I started the show. When we retired, sold our business and retired, we spent about 3 years looking for a place to live, and we looked all over America and decided on Fountain Hills. We've been here for 16 years now. It's the best decision we've ever made in our lives. I go to car shows all over the country, and I always wondered why we didn't have something, of a major type of car show in the state of Arizona. And I looked around for an appropriate place, and I think that the park is one of the most beautiful venues for a car show in the entire country, and a lot of the people who come along feel the same way. I started the show really because I wanted to do something positive for the town I live in. And I remember when I first approached Linda Kavanaugh and asked for permission to use the park, and she said, "Well, how many cars do you think you're going to have, dear?" And I said, "Well, I'm really hoping for 100. We had over 200 that first year, thanks to the park. The show has grown every year. This year we had 1,052 cars, an estimated 30,000 people. Attendance is free for spectators. I want to keep it that way. We had 118 sponsors, and we raised $262,000 for Phoenix Children's Hospital. By the way, Phoenix Children's Hospital, I was informed, treated about 1,300 kids from Fountain Hills in 2019 alone. So that's, I think, a pretty amazing number. We now take up the whole park. How we're going to grow, I don't know, but we may have reached our peak. The show has raised about $800,000 in 7 years. $270,000 of that went to the Boys and Girls Clubs, and over $500,000 for Phoenix Children's Hospital. All of our publicity, including ads, flyers, posters, prominently features the park because that's the main attraction for the show. And we are now getting publicity from national magazines and newspapers across the country, and we've become one of the largest car shows in the country. By the way, everybody tells me that I pronounce car very weird. I'm sorry, but I can't help it. So where do we go from here? Well, my wife accuses me of saying it like it's a cow. Where do we go from here? Well, needless to say, with the virus on at the moment, we're very concerned, but we are forging ahead with plans, and hopefully everything will turn out okay. We really don't have much space for more cars or helicopters, and as I said, we're probably close to our limit. We looked at, and we've spoken to Rachel about expanding onto Silvaro Avenue or Avenue of the Fountains, but quite frankly, the attraction of the show is a beautiful venue, and a street is not even Avenue of the Fountains, which is a fabulous street. It's not the same as the beautiful rolling hills of the park. This year we had our first manufacturer, Porsche, come in as a corporate sponsor, and GM almost came in to launch the new Corvette and are talking about doing that next year. We're chasing more manufacturers, so it's become a big-time show. That's it in a nutshell. I'm delighted to answer any questions, but before I do that, I'd like to thank all of the people who helped put on the show, all of the people here in the town, and the Parks Department, Public Works Department, the Fire Department, and MCSO. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask?
Like one of your cars.
They're all for sale.
I think Councilman Spellich has a few words.
Well, I had the pleasure of being introduced to Peter 3 years ago, and what an unbelievable guy he is, and just a charitable heart. I must confess, Peter, I brought you here for more than just hearing about Concourse. I'd like to now introduce Stephen Schnall, Senior Vice President, Chief Development Officer for Phoenix Children's Hospital, who'd like to say a few things.
So this is an ambush.
Kind of.
Surprise.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. You know, I can't help but reflect on the times that we're in and the incredibly unprecedented moment in the United States history and the world history. And I think it's so important, and what you have done is so wonderful to shine the spotlight on somebody who we all should be very grateful to, and that's Peter Volney. I've had the pleasure of knowing Peter for a number of years and was immediately struck by his extraordinarily big heart for Phoenix Children's Hospital, and particularly children with cancer. And I've gotten to know Peter and his beautiful wife, Linda, as who I always say is absolutely his better half. But Peter is the driver, he's the visionary, he is the man who has brought together his passion for cars, his passion for kids in the town that he loves dearly. So I want to say thank you to you all for making this possible, for giving Peter a platform to express his vision and tell his story, which I have to say he's done remarkably well. And we're proud to be a partner, proud with the City of Fountain Hills, and proud of Peter Volney.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Peter, don't go nowhere. I asked the mayor and fellow council members, as well as the town manager, to please honor Peter. The town of Fountain Hills presents to Peter Volney for establishing an annual organizing concourse in the hills in our community, benefiting our residents, businesses, visitors, and participants, and for your continued commitment to this regional event, June 2020. I have a plaque we're going to present to you. I had to make it alive. Here you go. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
It's nice to do some good things, some normal things once in a while here, huh? Really appreciate it. That was great. Thank you, Councilman. We next have our call to the public. Do we have any cards? No call to the public. Thank you. Next is our consent agenda. Unless you'd like to take something off, can I get a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thanks. Regular agenda item is consideration of adopting, am I forgetting something? No? Okay. Of adopting the results of the special election. This is the canvas, and I think you're all primed and ready to go on that one.
That's right. Right before you is the resolution that formally canvasses the results of the May 19th special election. Just to recap that, we have 17,391 registered voters. We ended up with a 66% voter turnout, which is phenomenal. All three items, we had Prop 427, the Daybreak rezone, 428, the Daybreak land use map amendment, and 429, the term of mayor. The first two items were both defeated about 73 to 27%, and the last one was defeated at 55 to 45%. So if there are no questions, I would just ask you to adopt the resolution.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? I'm just going to ask Aaron real quick to explain the ramifications of that, because you all know we're talking about our general plan and the zoning. So just to clarify that there's no other action or what the status is now.
Mayor, members of council, thank you. That's correct, Mayor. There's, after this vote, which is statutorily required to canvass the election, there will be no other action that needs to be taken to make any adjustments to the zoning or the general plan. The election has effectuated that result, and so this will be the first and only action the council should have to take on this matter.
Great, thank you. We had some questions about that. If there is any discussion or speaker cards, can I get a motion?
Move to adopt.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Liz. Our next item is, okay, so we continued that item, so we're going straight to the draft executive summary of the general plan. Oh.
Mayor, I believe you'll still need to have
Oh, we
an
have to do
action
it?
on that
Oh, okay.
tonight. While
Do we vote on it?
You just are basically going to vote to continue, correct?
Right, so Mayor, because the item is a public hearing item, in order to continue it without having to renotice it, will, if you would, Mayor, open the public hearing and then move to continue the public hearing. Liz, did I get that?
Oh,
right?
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is the public hearing on the special use permit. Could I get a motion to continue?
Yeah, I'll move to continue consideration of SU 2020-01 to the June 16th, 2020 council agenda.
I'm sorry?
I did receive one public comment card, but the public hearing is being continued, so.
So what do we do?
Mayor?
Let me just find out if we're supposed to go ahead with that or not.
Mayor, council, 1 second.
Since it was continued, I'm not sure if we do the public cards now or next week, or at our next meeting.
It's my understanding, Mayor and Council, that there is a member of the public here to comment on this item. However, because it's being continued, my suggestion would be to request if that person is all right with holding her comment in reserve until the public hearing on June 16th, but I'll leave that to the council's discretion.
You want to speak now? Oh, okay.
So then, Mayor and Council, what I would suggest we do is let's act on the motion to close the public hearing, and then we'll just take it as a regular public comment item. You know, but otherwise you can move on. It's in your discretion to do it.
Well, I'd like to hear from her, but we'll close the public hearing and then just hear it as a comment?
Don't close it. Sorry, don't close the public hearing.
Okay.
Just vote on
And then
it.
we'll vote to continue. Okay. Thank you. Makes sense. Sorry. All these unusual things tonight.
So did we have a motion and a second, Mayor? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah, but I guess we shouldn't do that until we hear from the speaker, right?
Yeah, we want to hear from him.
Okay, right, sure.
Then we can vote on it.
Okay.
It's Jane Bell.
Thank you.
Sorry to create all the confusion,
Hi.
but I do appreciate
That's
you
okay.
listening. I drew the short stick tonight to speak to you and to clarify straight from the mouth what the communication has been from the hospital developers and the residents. We have been for this project from the first. Never in our wildest dreams could we have believed communication would be this difficult. You need good communication to have success. You have in front of you my letter stating there have been 3 meetings, 2 of which were sales meetings with the public. The 3rd meeting was called by the mayor, so they all came. A special thanks to the mayor. The mayor's meeting, the developers changed their game plan. They told us you have $180,000 for the wall or trees. So we had a meeting with John, and there the landscaper discussed the trees. We were pressed after the P&Z continuance to complete the requirements for the town ordinances and guidelines. This was given to John to give to the developers, and to date, we have heard nothing. You have a copy of that in front of you. The P&Z got the ambulance entrance changed for the no beep, and we do appreciate their help. After the P&Z meeting, the architect and John visited Rose's house to view the cut.
Bless you.
This is the first time a developer had been on any property around the hospital. It's on to the P&Z and then you. We need your help. You hold what is required by the town. Let's get the best hospital that is good for all. Thank you, and a thank you for helping, and I appreciate John. He has been absolutely a jewel to all of us. Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
letting me speak.
Of course.
Mayor, question of staff?
I don't even know what we're allowed to do anymore. Can he ask a question?
We can ask.
We haven't
we can ask,
voted
We can
yet.
ask a question because we haven't voted to close the hearing,
Yeah.
but yes.
Want to ask a question of staff?
Thank you.
Yes. John, this was provided to us. You may have this. Okay. I'd appreciate if we could get answers to all of these issues that are listed in this. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to continue this item. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Yeah, I know, close the public hearing. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to let's see, where am I? General plan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. You recall that at the last council meeting, the Mayor and Council not only approved the proposed general plan for this year, that will be good for the next 10 years, but also you referred it to voters. So staff is moving forward with that. But as part of that process, the council also indicated that they wanted to have staff come back with a draft executive summary of the general plan, and they wanted to weigh in on it. We thought we'd bring it back at this council meeting because if we brought it back on the 16th and there was an issue or problem with the council break, it'd be a long time before we'd be able to get it corrected and bring it back to you. So we did try to get this quickly done, and we worked with the consultant, John did, I should say. So with that, I'll turn it over to John, who has some brief comments to make, and then he'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding it.
Hi.
Mayor and Council, I'm really not sure what I can add to what Grady just said. We did try that quickly so you would have enough time to look at the draft to give us any feedback. We'll provide it for you in your packet. I can also pull it up on the screen if we need to. But if any council members have any comments they'd like to give us now, any adjustments they see, certainly glad to take those and work it into to the document.
Thank you. Councilman?
Yeah, I raised the issue, or I requested, I should say, an executive summary. As I looked at this, I really wondered how many citizens are going to read this. Parts of it are pretty dense. I started to do some editing and thought, that's not my job. That's somebody else's job. But I'm afraid that the first 2 pages, let's see. Ability to, let's see, bear with me. The Fountain Hills General Plan, ability to adapt to change, about Fountain Hills. I'd just like you to go through it and see what is really necessary. It's pretty dense, and I read things in there that I personally I didn't think were necessary. You may disagree, but I just asked that it be looked at.
And if I could just comment too on that. So the mayor and I were having a conversation earlier about back in the day when we were in college and what executive summaries used to mean for your reports that you do. And usually they were no more than 2 pages, right? And we're all kind of, and even in the business world. But the way that I'm interpreting this, and John, you may correct me, but how long is the actual document itself? It's quite hefty.
130, 40
And this is
pages.
9?
What's this?
Yes, it's, right.
So the idea, we do what's called, kind of getting off a little bit, but we do what's called a budget and brief book, or I'm sorry, a budget and brief publication. It's maybe, David, what is that, about 4 to 6 pages? It's more like a pamphlet, But I think that's the same idea. If people, this will be separately on our website if people want to look at this after the, prior to the general plan being adopted. It's very intensive with graphics. It's very, when you look at the pictures and all that, it's very easy on the eye, very easy to follow. Probably wouldn't be 9 pages if you didn't have so much in the way of graphics, but it does make it a lot more pleasing. But very much like the budget and brief pamphlet, if nobody had the ability or time to spend reading a 150-page document or 130-page document, they would pretty much be able to get from what they believe would be in that 130-page document by reading the 9 pages. So I understand exactly what you're coming from, because in the business world and back several years ago when I was in college, executive summary could not be more than 2 pages. That was why it was called an executive summary. So maybe the term is not really a good term for this, because I don't believe it really truly is an executive summary. I would say it's probably it's another summary, but I don't know what we call it, maybe an overview or...
Overview or cliff notes, if you could call it.
Yeah, so understanding what I just explained, would you still be fine if it was the 9 pages, but we kind of worked on some of the things you mentioned specifically?
Well, would I be fine? I mean, I don't know what the options are. If I had options, I'd tell you what they are. I think it's long.
Because I see this as a standalone document,
All right,
that
and
it could actually be alone and people don't have to read this as part of the 130
I've
pages.
done a number of these things in my professional life. One thing to call it is the report in brief, or something like that.
Okay.
And Mayor and Councilmember, we also envision putting together, we hope, some kind of one-page, kind of more quick, even flyers. Each one would be incomplete by itself. You'd have to look at several of them to understand the full plan, but hopefully those can be that more readable, just kind of quick, understand it by piece of the plan.
I think it's,
Councilman?
nothing, I was just going to say, great job. Let's move on.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was going to add too, I mean, looking at page 7, for example, it's a big picture of the fountain. There's one paragraph and then a graphic. So, I mean, I think the 9 pages probably is about 4 pages of text, which is, it's not 2 pages, but it's still readable. And I think, I read through it. It encompasses everything we talked about at last meeting that we wanted to see. So I'm good.
You're good? David? I'm good. Speaker cards? No. Okay. So we don't vote or anything, we're just full
Give me
speed
some
ahead
feedback,
here.
correct.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your input. Next, we have the public hearing approving our final budget. So I open up the hearing, and then are we going to have a presentation? We are, okay. So I'll let you speak first, and then I'll open up the hearing.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, one of the most important actions that a council can take is the approval of the annual budget. Last month, we brought before you the tentative budget. It's a $33 million budget for next year, all funds, including the general fund. As we mentioned at the last meeting when this was before the council, we're taking a very cautious approach to our budget for next year. As you recall, we identified a number of what we call like the 4 or 5 top capital improvement projects that are priorities of the council, and the others we're going to do a wait and see how the revenues are flowing in. We're going to do a quarterly update meeting to the council regarding our revenues and how they're tracking compared to what we budgeted. I've also asked each of my department directors to identify in the event that we have some major issues and a revenue shortfall that may not be necessarily made up by this 2.9 million we talked about earlier, to identify where we might have some other opportunities to make some budget adjustments. So in all fairness, I think we've done a really good job on the front end on this budget. There's room if we needed to make adjustments after adoption tonight throughout the year. We're going to be very cautious, as I mentioned, going forward. David, our finance director, has a very brief presentation they'll go through, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. So I'll open the public hearing for this part, and then we'll recess into a special meeting. Before? Okay. So here's the public hearing, and we're recessing into a special meeting for the budget, and then we'll take action during that. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, the agenda got kind of messed up with the formatting. The public hearing will take place in the regular meeting.
Okay.
Once you close the public hearing, then we recess into a special meeting to actually adopt the tentative, or the final
Okay.
budget.
All
And then
right.
we go back into the regular.
We apologize. This is all
Not our
state law
fault.
that
This
makes
is
us do
the-
it this way.
This is not my meeting here tonight. Go right ahead. Thank you, sir.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. These slides are ones that you've seen before. I just wanted to remind residents that all of those meetings are available online. We had our council retreat on February 25th, the budget workshop on April 14th, and then you approved the tentative budget at the May 5th meeting. So if somebody wants to see a slower version of these slides, that would be a great place to look. I did not prepare. Okay. We do have tentative numbers for last month for the May collections, TPT collections. That would have been for the April activity. I did include it on this graph. It wasn't in your packet. I just received these numbers yesterday, but I thought I'd share those. Our total collections for May was about $950,000. It's about a 12.5% decrease from last year's numbers. However, overall for the entire year, this fiscal year, we've exceeded our budgeted amount, what we expected to receive in TPT, by $850,000. So that's as of the end of last month. We still have collections this month. So we're looking to end the year pretty good. And most of that's due to the 3.3% rate increase that we had done in 2019. So more to come on that during your first budget update, which should be when you return in August. And that is just not going to work. Okay, so yeah, we got it. So as Grady had mentioned, the total budget across all funds is $33.9 million. That includes $19.3 million in the general fund. All right, so some of the assumptions that we made when determining revenues, we didn't include projects that are not finished yet, and also that 0.3% rate increase accounts for most of the increase that you're going to see on the next slide. State shared revenues, I actually just received an email this afternoon from the league. It looks like they're reducing their expectations, DOR's reducing their expectations for state shared TPT tax. It looks like it's going to be between 15 and 20%. I had prepared the slides expecting a 15% decrease for TPT and VLT, which equates to about 500,000, and that looks like it's going to hold true. The state shared income tax does not change from year to year, and that's about half of the state shared revenues. So all in all,
David, just to clarify for the council, so the impact on this year will hit us, is it in 2 years?
2022.
Yes, so just to let you know, I mean, on the income tax collection, you know, what impact is happening this year will occur to us or will be impacted in 2 years.
All right, so overall, we're expecting 19.3 million in revenues for next year. Like I said, this year we're actually going to exceed that 17.2, so we'll see how that shakes out at the end of the year. As far as expenditures, we did include 1.7 million in contingency, and that's basically to act as a buffer against lower revenues. Also, if you take out that contingency, our budget increase about 500,000 compared to this current year. Also, in the expenditure considerations, the technology replacement fund.
I apologize, Mayor.
Oh, yeah.
Say that again, because I didn't quite get it, the 500,000.
For the budget increase. So this year, if you take our current budget for fiscal year 20, and then you take the fiscal year 21 budget and take out the contingency, the 1.7, there's an additional 500,000 that the budget's increased.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. The technology replacement fund was also created. That shows up in the following slide and is part of the increase in expenditures. That will be charged to departments and divisions based on their FTE count. So this is the overall general fund expenditure picture. Like I said, in that general government line, it's obviously a 192% increase. However, if you take that 1.7 million out of that number, then the budget increases 3.8%. Sorry, 3.6%. I don't want anybody to get in trouble in my math. All right, so then we're going to look at personnel. This goes back to fiscal year 01 all the way till next year. We do have an additional one full-time equivalent added for next year, and that includes a groundskeeper 2 position and an increase to community center customer service rep. Then, as Grady mentioned, we have 4 capital projects that were deemed high priority by the council. Those total $2.9 million. Those projects are funded from existing resources in the capital projects fund and as committed fund balance. So that's not, those projects are not dependent on revenue for next year. So then that leaves us to the adoption of the budget. As I stated, May 5th, you approved the tentative budget. The current item before you is consideration of the final budget. After this item, the next item is a budget implementation policy that provides direction regarding budget administration and also improves the org charts, authorized positions, pay plan, job descriptions, and the comprehensive fee schedule for the town. And that's that.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for David? Yes?
Pardon the brain fog, but I can't remember who goes out and checks on signs and violations. That's
Code enforcement?
Code enforcement, thank you. How many code enforcement officers do we have now?
We have 2. And we have 1 that's assigned to work weekends. So it's been very effective. It's been very good. In fact, I get a lot of council members bringing things to my attention over the weekend. I let John know, and then the Development Services Director gets in touch with the employee. So it's been working out very well.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any speaker cards on this item? No? So I'll close the hearing as long as nobody has any other questions. And we'll recess to a special meeting so that we can vote on this. Do we just do a motion then? Or does anybody have anything they would like to say? Okay, Mike, looks like you're ready, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here.
I know, it
There's
says
a resolution.
adoption of yeah, I think that's-
Move to approve resolution 2020-23.
Can I get a second, please? Second. Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. So we will reconvene into our regular meeting now. And David's probably up again for the next item, which is the,
She didn't even have to spray.
pardon me? Yeah, there he comes.
Just real quickly, this is a unique thing that our town does. I've worked in other towns, and it's usually part of the overall budget book, that when the council adopts the resolution, adopts a budget book. And all the items that you typically see in a budget book are your town organization charts, the pay plan, the schedule of authorized positions, the job descriptions. And we used to do years ago, not years ago, but up to about 2 years ago, we were doing every year every single job description. Now we're only doing those that have changed since the last time the council approved it. So it used to be that book would be like about 1,000 pages. The one thing I did want to let you know, the pay plan that you're approving tonight has a 2.5% cost of living adjustment, and that's only going to go into effect in January if you feel that the confidence level that our revenues are tracking. If they're not, that is not going into effect. And we've made it very clear to employees that that's only if the revenues are matching our projections that we programmed the original budget for. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. Doesn't mean that salaries are changing in January.
Okay.
I don't have any prepared
Okay.
remarks as far as this goes, other than what I had mentioned on the last slide of the presentation. So,
Anybody have any questions about this part of it? Do we have any speaker cards? No? Well, if you're ready, we could go straight to the motion then.
Move to adopt resolution 2020-24.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks for all your work on this. It's a big relief. And we'll see what the future brings. Our next item is an interesting one. It's about parking violations, and we're looking for this to be an emergency measure, correct?
That is correct. I'm going to have John come up to kind of explain this. The Development Services Director will explain how this is a housekeeping item and how it's going to really improve administratively how we administer these parking violation citations. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Wesley?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The town takes a great interest in the quality of the community and how things are occurring in the residential districts. And we have situations where people start parking in the yards or otherwise inappropriately, and typically code compliance has gone out and tried to work with those situations. We've had some situations come up of late where the sheriff's office has gotten involved with those, and that forced us to look a little closer at exactly what our current ordinance says. And it says to initiate any action requires that they shall be commenced by issuance of a citation. And a lot of times we don't really want to issue a citation. We want to work with a person to achieve compliance. And so there are two provisions here in the code where it says you shall do those things. We feel like it will be better. It will allow us more flexibility to really work towards compliance if we change those shalls to may. That gives us flexibility in each situation. If a person's just willing to comply and move, the vehicle to where it needs to be, we can just have them do that. And we don't have to go through that citation process. That's all this is about. As Mr. Miller said, kind of a housekeeping cleanup, changed a couple of shalls to may.
Thank you, sir. Any questions about this? Yes,
I just
Councilman.
wonder if it should say may at the discretion with non-compliance, so that you'd have some sort of teeth to the ordinance.
I might see what Aaron feels about that. We reviewed this with the sheriff's office and with the attorney. They felt like this language was sufficient, but I understand what you're saying, so.
I wouldn't have anything much more to say other than that. I mean, the ordinance provides the penalty and provides the authorization for them to take action as they see fit. If the council wants to entertain that as added language, I'm happy to consider it as well. But as it stands right now, I think there's adequate enforcement authority, but I'll leave that to the council's discussion.
And Mayor and Council, I was privy a little bit to this discussion, and my understanding is that that shall gives the sheriff's department very little discretion, but when it's may, it totally gives them the discretion when it's appropriate to cite or not to.
Do we have any speaker cards on this item? Any other comments or questions? So since it's an emergency, oh, you do? Go ahead. We need 5 votes, right, to get this through. So if someone's ready to make an order, motion?
I'll move to adopt
The usual?
I'll move to adopt ordinance 20-07.
With an emergency clause.
Pardon me?
Just say with an emergency clause.
With an emergency clause.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you, John. So our next item is the I, which is talking about the hillside protection ordinance. Grady?
I don't have a whole lot to say on this, other than the council has addressed this a couple times at council retreats. I think the first time it ever came up was about a year ago, and it came back up. We found that we weren't really administering the ordinance at the time, or the town code, as it related to collecting fees, and we had a backlog of people that were trying to seek some of these hillside protection easements to get them abandoned. So anyways, John, I think, has come up with a really good process. He outlined this, I believe, at the last council retreat, and this, I believe, is implementing the discussion that the council had at that time. With that, I'll turn it over to our Development Services Director, John Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mayor and council, it was actually all the way back in December 3rd council meeting. I'm sure you remember it well. Gave a presentation with regard to the need to address some of our issues and ordinances with regard to hillside protection easements. Council had made it one of the priorities of the department to work on, and had been working on that for almost a year. There were three main topics that we discussed at that time, and based on the council direction, have gone in and looked at how to implement the direction given by council, and based on that, proposing three amendments to the ordinances dealing with that. One is with regard to an exception that's already in the code in section subdivision regulations 502C2 that allows for the 20-foot wide driveway that leads from the street to the house to be exempt from the disturbance limitations. It's not clear in the code whether that applies to all disturbances. There are two types in the code. There's the hillside protection easement or the hillside transfer and protection option. It's not clear if it applies to both. Where it's situated in the code, it appears maybe it only applies to the easement. It was meant to apply to both. So the first change is to clarify that so it's clear that it applies to both situations, and we can use that exemption in both those situations. The other one, and the thing that's been a little bit more challenging as the town continues to grow, developers like to develop the easy lots first, and that's happened to a large degree. A lot of the lots that are being left now are a little bit more challenging, and we look at actually applying the disturbance limits, which is for the portion of the lot that has a 20% or greater slope, you can only disturb 40% of the lot. That, in some cases, given the shape of the lot, the width, the actual topography by the street and so forth, can become challenging to really develop within those limits. So we have proposed that we add into section 5.04 a new exemption, number 4, that allows me as a development service director, when we see a unique lot that has some of those limitations, to work with the developer to see what additional disturbance should be allowed in those given situations so they can really develop those more challenging lots. The other amendment that we're proposing, this came up actually from the council members as we discussed this back in December, is why do we really have to bring the hillside abandonments to council? And couldn't we do those administratively and speed up that process for those that are requesting those? And we looked at that and worked with the town attorney on that. We did determine that is possible for those to be done administratively. So I proposed amendment to section 2.08 of the subdivision regulations to make hillside abandonments administrative action instead of having to come to council. We do have one in the works waiting for this action.
Thank you for the explanation. Do we have any questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. So on the abandonments, you'll just handle those as they come in on a case-by-case. It's not going to be a blanket type.
Correct.
Okay. And then on the challenging lots, prior to this, I mean, did they always have the variance route to pursue, or you just feel this is much more suitable in terms of dealing with property owners? And
Chair, or Mayor, Vice Mayor, the variances are really for zoning ordinance. This is a subdivision regulation, and so this will give us the flexibility we need there.
So this is more for the larger zone subdivisions, not for individual lots already platted in Fountain Hills proper.
Vice Mayor, there will probably be platted lots that this will help, but again, when we think of some of the, now suddenly the name went out of my head, the subdivision far northwest part of the town, Eagles Nest. Eagles Nest, a lot of those lots in there are rather challenging. They're big, but just the way they're laid out and the topography that's there, it just provides some challenge with some of those. This will give us some flexibility in cases like that to look at the specifics.
And the P&Z Commission was all behind this, or didn't need to?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, as an amendment to the subdivision regulations, it did not require P&Z action because we'd already been to council and gotten your direction, and we're just back implementing that direction. We did not take it to them.
All right.
All right, Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that Councilman Brown, for many years, has been advocating this type of a policy and this type of a change for these ordinances, and he and I spoke today, and he wanted to express his appreciation for how much work has gone into this, and that he appreciates that this is up against the for the council now to move on, and I'm in support of this. I think it's going to give you a lot more flexibility, and it'll expedite things internally within your department, which will help many of the constituents when they're in the process of trying to move forward with something to build on some of these tough lots. So I think it's great. I think it's a great idea and well received, hopefully, by all of us here on the council. Otherwise, we'll table it until he comes back.
Thank you. Councilman? The only, I talked to Grady earlier, do we have any speaker cards? No. About the difference between doing something administratively and having it come to us is basically notification for neighbors, or any kind of appeal process. Now, so the person that's actually asking for it could appeal if administratively we denied something, they could appeal it, but is there another, the other side of that, which is if a neighbor had any kind of a concern. So I was wondering if you would consider having a provision in there where they could come up administratively with a way to notify immediate neighbors of a plan to do something like this. And again, I don't know enough about it to make any kind of an illustration for an example, but if it's a bigger lot, then you're basically probably building next to another lot and another home that probably did come to council to do that. So I wondered if that would look like something that was too obstructive or obstructionist, or however you want to put it, because that's the only part that is missing. I'm fine with having the administrators make those decisions, but if something started to be built and then the neighbor saw it, is there a way to maybe get ahead of that?
So, Mayor, if I may, just one quick thought that comes in with that. Regardless, there's still the setbacks required by the zoning district that will be in place. So we can't get any closer to the property lines than what those setbacks would allow anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
And the land lot coverage,
And
those are still in place.
well, but the disturbance is being
Right.
changed. So, I don't know what something like that might look to you. I mean, I'm prepared to move ahead with it, but I just wondered if any of you had that same thought of now, since it's not coming to us, then there's no agenda, there's no notification, there's no ability for an immediate neighbor to have any input. Mike?
If we were to do something like that, would it be like within a certain feet, how we do some of the other things? I mean, I don't know if that's what you were
Yeah, like immediately,
envisioning.
not like some big blanket,
Yeah.
but like if you're next door to another home, and say that they're expecting that they're gonna have a longer driveway, or that they're gonna end up being able to take up more of the lot than,
So, Mayor, we
it's
could-
not to say that they would prevail, but at least they would know and have an opportunity to send us an email or something like that, or send him an
So,
email.
Mayor, we could have administrative procedure that if this comes up, that the applicant's required to notify any abutting property owners of their request and give them a certain amount of time then to provide any feedback before we would take action.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I'm not trying to undo this whole thing, obviously, but I wanted to kind of look at every aspect of it to see if any of that registered with you guys or not. Councilman?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So John, would it be possible that there would be a clause in there that they would have to notify their neighbor, and then the neighbor would have 25, 30 business days to, see, I think what the problem is though, is like, what if you don't get along with your neighbor, and your neighbor just wanting to be a jerk and says, I'm not going to approve this, then we can't let a neighbor decide. I mean, I get the whole idea, you know, but I would hate to see, if it's within code and everything, that one neighbor that you might not get along with have the ability to tell you you can't build. How could we get around that? Would that be,
Well, this
would that go to a
wouldn't be-
hearing then, that
Well, I
we
don't
would
think
hear
that-
everybody's side on it, or? I don't know. I mean, I just, I somewhat agree with the mayor in the fact that if someone built, I have 2 vacant lots next to me, if someone wanted to build next to me something that I thought was gonna hurt my property value or something like that, that I would like to have some say-so. I mean, is that
Yeah, I'm
at all possible that we could, then it would come to the council or something?
No.
I mean, I like the idea of exactly what Councilman Brown, I sat with him and he explained to me in detail what he wanted and what he thought was a good idea, and it helps us, but I also see the mayor's point, and I don't know if my fellow council members do, of,
So I think we're hearing loud and clear. I think from what the mayor's saying and what I'm hearing David say, I think what I would suggest is we'll come back at a later time as it relates to some sort of a notification process, and maybe it's a posting that is actually goes on the property like what we do for other types of things. But what I would suggest is it seems like there's consensus on what's before you tonight. So maybe as part of your motion that you just direct staff to come back with an administrative procedure on how to do the notification of nearby neighbors. Is that what I'm hearing?
Is that okay to do that? We don't need to amend it then or anything?
No.
Okay, that would be fine.
Yeah, Mayor, because I don't think you want to rely on the property owner to notify his neighbors. I mean, if anyone's going to do any kind of notification, it's going to be the town, so not, yeah.
Actually, I think just the opposite. I was thinking through this, and I'm thinking, you know, maybe you can have something that when they submit their paperwork to you, they say, hey, you know what, we spoke with our neighbors, this one has no problem, this one has this problem, and this is how I believe I'm gonna, you know, get around it or help them to be comfortable with it. But I agree that you should have good communication. I don't think it's the town's job to create that communication in these particular situations when we're talking one-off approvals. So,
Well, let's, if we do it the way that Grady said, we don't have to let them come up with what they think would be a good solution. And again, it's not that they would have power for overriding it or anything, but it's just the idea of, if it was going to come here, they would have had the ability to at least have their say.
and the idea is to expedite the approval
Absolutely,
process.
Yeah, so you don't want to have.
So we're not, you know, we don't want 30, 60, 90 days when the idea is to give you some autonomy to make a decision.
Yes, agreed. Okay. Motion? Oh,
So I think it's loud and clear. So, so we'll come back at a later time. You can either, amend the suggested motion and have that, or I think we're getting the direction loud and clear here, and we'll come back. If not at the next meeting, we'll come back in August August is probably better, with a really well thought out process, and we'll outline that to you in August.
Okay, sounds good. Or even if you just figure out how to do it administratively and don't even have to bring it back to us, that's probably fine too.
We'll just report back to us, I'm saying, in
Okay.
August.
So approve as is then?
Yeah, just,
All right, so,
And if
Art,
you,
you want to go ahead?
yeah, I'll make a motion to move on this consideration as is with the changes in the ordinance.
Second.
thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adopting ordinance 20-07, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. We are moving on to the town manager having administrative approval to deal with our panorama drain pipe issue, and we'll hear from Justin. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Mayor, council members. As you know, this one kind of snuck up on us while we certainly prepare. and attempt to investigate and inspect all of our infrastructure. This particular one caught us off guard. With that said, we received the 60% plans last Tuesday from the designer. We incorporated all of the town's staff notes and were fortunate enough to get the Fountain Hills Sanitary District notes and send them back yesterday. So we're moving forward. We anticipate, based on the progress, that the 100% plan should be ready for utility conflict review, most likely in the very beginning of July. And then we would immediately after that set the project out for bid, and with everything working perfectly, start construction sometime right in August. So tonight what we are asking permission to do is allow the town manager to administratively approve the contract, and then whenever council reconvenes in August or soon after that, ratify that the contract that he approved administratively.
And just to clarify what we're really talking about, so we have an engineer's estimate of approximately $2 million, $2.1 million. So if it comes back and it's way over that, then it's coming back to the council regardless. If it's within our engineer's estimate, it's still going to come back to, if I approve it administratively, it's going to come back to you for your ratification, meaning that you will technically approve what I've already approved. Again, if we find that there's that this is over budget, we're going to come back to you anyways, because we're going to need to identify the additional funding, and we're going to need to get the council to provide staff direction and take action on this item. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to expedite this project. As you know, it's very precarious as we're starting to approach the monsoon season. There's sinkholes involved with this, and we don't want to have more damage as a result of the sinkholes. So we're wanting to get on this as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Any questions for Grady or for Justin on this? Oh, yes.
I just was, Justin, you already have the contract that you're referring to in writing. They indicated that it's going to be $2.1 million?
Madam Mayor, council member, we have a rough engineer's estimate, but we will not know the full scope of that fee until we're much closer to the 100% drawing. So what we have right now is the design contract, and the design is underway. The construction cost is not yet known. We'll get an engineer's estimate, but the real number will be known on the date that we open the sealed bids.
And just as a side, it's a good question. We're starting to see construction costs starting to come in a little bit closer now to our engineer's estimate. As you recall, the last couple of years, we've been in a very hot construction environment. And so we believe, because of the pandemic and a lot of these contractors are hungry for business, you'll be seeing at the next council meeting, for instance, the roundabout award of a contract, which came right around about the engineer's estimate. So we're feeling pretty good about this. We don't know for sure, but we're feeling pretty confident versus maybe a year ago that it might have been, higher, 10% higher is what most of the valley's been experiencing, 10 to 15% higher than the engineer's estimate. So anyways, be happy to answer any other questions the council may have.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards? No? Any other questions? The motion is on page 197, if anybody's ready to make that.
I
go
guess
ahead.
I do have another question. You're talking about the bidding process and the bids coming in. So with this consideration of authorizing the town manager, are we effectively authorizing you to choose the bidder? Whomever, whether it's the lowest bidder or not?
It's actually, it's a traditional bid, so we're going to go with the low bid on this, correct? It's not like we're looking at qualifications and then ranking them. It's going to be based on you want to explain how the process works?
So the invitation for bids will include all of the technical and legal language that simply states the town as a whole has the right to accept or reject the responsive or non-responsive bids. That is a rather lengthy, complicated process that is included in the IFB documents. And so it may not be the lowest bid. Ideally, if they meet all of the requirements and they have provided all the necessary documents required under the invitation for bids, yes. But sometimes it doesn't happen and we have to take the next bid.
And are you thinking that because we recess in July, that this may come up in a period of time when we're not here, that we wouldn't be voting on this matter every other week?
I do, sir.
And it's also the monsoon season. So the concern is we can be having some of this flooding and not addressing this and getting started on it is going to cause more damage. So it's not just the cost of doing the $2 million. We don't want to incur additional costs of damage that we have to repair in addition to doing the $2 million project. Do you follow, like sidewalk or asphalt or other thing that's going to, collapse that we have to replace as well?
Okay, well, and, you'll be in contact with us, so I think that if something was to happen that he felt that we should be involved in, I think that we could figure out what to do with that too, right?
Absolutely. In fact, we've been known to have telephonic meetings. If we had to actually have a telephonic meeting, a special meeting, we'll do that if we need to.
Especially now, right? We're getting to be experts. So if anybody is ready for the motion, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'll move to approve the motion as written since it's like really, really long.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Thanks a lot for all your work. So this is it, council discussion direction. Oh,
I would like to make a comment, Justin. I think you're doing a fantastic job with the street work in the downtown area and managing that whole process. I think it looks excellent, and now is the time to be doing it. So I think it's good timing.
On behalf of all involved, we thank you.
yeah, it's been fun to watch. Anything you'd like to talk about to the town manager, or ready to adjourn? Yes, sir.
I do have a comment in regards to the code enforcement and businesses that are really trying to survive in this time of the COVID-19. And I would like to see some sort of moratorium on the sign ordinances and allowing these businesses to keep A-frame signs up and to continue with the temporary pause that we had and that expired on June 1. I'd like to see that extended at a minimum right now until September 1 and allow them to get through the summer, continuing to do everything they can to market their businesses and to utilize the exceptions that we were allowing them.
Since this is really not on the agenda, what I will do, as I mentioned, we're going to be bringing together a package of measures to help businesses here in town. We'll include that so that the council can separately act on that if they wish to do so or not. So I'm hearing you loud and clear that you'd like to have that continue.
And
but this probably, we really couldn't have the council provide action on this, so that's how I'll handle it for the 16th.
But administratively, you could continue your policy of easing the code enforcement.
I've had some conflicting direction from different council members, so it would have to take the full council on this one.
Okay.
Councilman?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. When town manager was giving his report at the beginning of the meeting, I wanted to ask him a question about the $2.9 million coming from the state, and I was told that I couldn't because it's policy. And I'm not questioning the mayor's interpretation of policy, but on the face of it, it doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'd like to know what the origin is of the policy and discuss whether or not we might want to change it. Because if the town manager is making a report, it seems to me it's going to raise questions. And to just sit here quietly doesn't make any sense to me.
But the public won't know we're going to talk about it. The public needs to know when we're going to talk about something.
Well, he's talking about it. I mean, he's talking about $2.9 million.
We can't talk about this.
Aaron, I think they're looking forward to your report next meeting.
No, but I'm serious. I'd like to see what the origin. I'd like to see what the origin is and whether or not we want to reconsider.
Well,
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Good night.